Java. So if you had a chance to check out the syllabus here, I will spend the first bit of time going over this. I know you folks know how to read, so I'm not going to read it to you, but I want to at least pull out the important things and reiterate the stuff that I think is important that you should know. And then let me try that again. It's going to be one of those nights. Happy Thursday. Does it open this time? Oh my goodness. All right, let me try the download button. And we'll just open it in Word. Raybeams, you having the same issue with that file? I wonder if I need to re-upload it. So I've got chat for Twitch up on my other laptop over here. So if you are remote synchronous, you're welcome to chat in. It's not quite as nice as voice, but it's possible I could be in a voice chat channel as well. That gets a little bit weird because there's like probably a 5-second delay with Twitch, but this wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But most people seem pretty good at just doing chat. All right, so let me do this. Because maybe it just doesn't like the Word document here. If I save it as a PDF. Yeah, save as. There we go. Let me just save it as a PDF and put this out in D2L. And maybe that'll be happier. All right, so let me put this copy out here for you folks. I don't know what it's doing there. Hey, Professor Perp, how you doing? He's another remote student here. All right, let's try the PDF version here. Where did it put my PDF? In the downloads folder. Of course, I put it in the download folder. Sorry, I paid more attention. All right, let's try this one here. Hopefully that one, the PDF would open for you here. All right, cool. Okay, so it worked for somebody else. So at least the PDF hopefully will work for you. There will be a syllabus quiz. It's free points for you, and you can take it as many times as you want for you to go through, answer a couple things that I think are important, and then you'll acknowledge a course policy here we'll get to in a second. So again, this is me. I'm Eric Chinesky. Nice to meet you. Hopefully you had a chance to Google me. I'm the only me in the world. Rather unique last name there, thanks to my great-grandfather, and I'm sure his parents at some point too, but he's the one who came through Ellis Isle. This is my school email address. It does go to my phone, so it'll bing in my pocket or whatever, and I'll get back to you relatively quick. It's also, I use my cell phone. I am a full-time faculty member here, so I have an office over in the F building. I started last year, and I've only been in it one time, thanks to the pandemic. So don't call my office phone, because I'm not going to check it. And the voicemail actually says, please don't leave me voicemails, call my cell phone. So just use my cell phone. It makes life a whole lot easier. You can call or text. I'm pretty good at texting. I'm going to have a survey for you folks to fill out for when office hours would be the most convenient for you folks. I'm trying to be available at the best time for as many people as possible, rather than saying, hey, come at this time, because did I kick it? What did I do? Not even touching it. All right. Here's ghosts today. So I'll try and have standing office hours, so you could just drop in or like book an appointment to meet with me at those times, but I can also meet by appointment at other times if the regular hours don't work for you. But one of the deals with my contract is I need to have so many office hours listed that I sit at my desk and wait for people to come talk to me. But I would rather you folks pick them than me to say, hey, here's the times. And for the office hours, I don't actually want to use the little office in F building because it's small and probably not very well ventilated. So my plan is to just meet virtually on Discord or Zoom. I've got a Discord server set up for all my students. There's a channel specific for this class. There's a channel for memes. If you have any interesting, funny memes you want to share, I love seeing them. a channel just for interesting tech stuff, any career tips. If you folks know of anybody hiring, feel free to share that with the class, or if you had a bad experience with the place, share that too, so we know who to go to and who to stay away from. So we shouldn't probably be here till 9:45 most nights. This is more of a lab style class, so my goal is to spend maybe half of it talking at you, and then the second part of the class is for you to actually practice those things. So instead of a format where I'll put something on the screen and say try it, and we spend 15 minutes trying it, and then we come back and we do it again, and that's the back and forth seems a little bit tricky sometimes, and it's frustrating for people who get things done faster and frustrating for people who aren't done fast enough. I'm just going to plan to talk for the first bunch of time, and then we'll go try it afterwards, and we can try all the things. I can walk around and actually see your computers and see what's going on with your programs there to make sure it's working. So that's the general format I have in mind for it. And if you're remote, you can hop in Discord, send me messages. I can do screen shares and things as well for that synchronous time. So that's the time set aside for it. Again, if you want to do it asynchronously, great. You can drop in my office hours, book appointments with me. I can do troubleshooting remotely as well. Like the screen sharing tools nowadays are great. It's not hard anymore. So here, in person, G119, or online live, twitch.tv/EricChinesky, or I will export everything out to YouTube. So you should actually be able to see the recordings on Twitch, but they disappear after 45 days. And I once had a student be mad at me that when they went to take their final exam, a recording from like the second week of class wasn't available on Twitch. In your exam slot, I don't think you've got time to go back to the video anyway, but sure. So I'll just put them out on YouTube as well. So either way, when you want to go there. And just note, Twitch and YouTube are public. So is Discord. So you can use any username or handle you prefer. It doesn't have to have your real name in it at all. Everything that you actually turn in goes on to Desire to Learn, and Desire to Learn has your name. So that's where I'll actually see who you are. This should be a copy paste from the course catalog description. Hopefully nothing new there. You knew what you signed up for, I hope, when you register for the class. Our prereqs. This is a little weird. This is our first Intro to Programming course. This is typically the second programming course, or object-oriented programming in Java. They're either or, but you shouldn't be able to take this one unless you've taken this one. Again, like I said, I'm new as of last year as a full-time faculty member. I had nothing to do with this requirement. It confuses me too, but sure. So as long as you've had one Java course, you should be fine. We're all going to be brand new to PHP, and that's actually what we start with. And then the second half of the semester, we'll pick up the Java side of things, and we'll go from there. The other thing that is not a prereq, but would be helpful for you, is some sort of database knowledge. Typically, that's our 1200 course, our Introduction to Database Systems. We do database-backed applications so that our web system software will talk to a database so that it is actually interesting. Right? If all it was a website that didn't ever change or interact with data, it would just be like HTML. We could just take the HTML class and build a static website. The goal of this class is to look at how we build the back-end web software that actually can be live and dynamic and interactive, and you can store data, you can read data, we can do all sorts of fun stuff with it, and it's a lot of fun. Not having the database class as a prereq makes it easier to get into this one. So when we get to the database stuff, I'll basically talk you through everything, but it won't make any sense if you haven't taken the class. So if you've taken the class, like a couple more things will click in your head and you'll kind of understand what I'm doing and why. Other than that, you just kind of follow along, point and click, and you should be fine. In terms of outcomes, critical thinking is huge when it comes to software. Right? The hard part of writing software is not the code. The hard part of writing software is figuring out how to take a big problem and break it down into small enough pieces that a computer can do it. Because computers are really stupid. They will only do what we tell it to do, and it will do exactly what we tell it to do, even if we tell it to do the wrong thing. So the hard thing in programming and software development is learning how to solve problems. So that's the critical thinking piece here. So evaluate our information, understand the relationships between ideas, develop conclusions and solutions, apply our knowledge to the task. So we're going to learn all sorts of tools and techniques and things that we can do to solve problems to build out a toolkit. But if you hand me a carpenter's kit, I'm not going to be able to build you a house. I don't know how to apply those tools at all, and it would go poorly. And then obviously accomplish the assigned task. So if I ask you to build a house, don't give me something that's not a house. I'm bad at these carpentry metaphors. All right, these common course outcomes, most of it it's a little bit technical terms that we'll get to, and it'll make more sense once we've gone through the class. But these are the things that every time we teach 2454, which actually is always me, I'm the only one who teaches it. We only offer it once every semester. It's my baby course now. We will assess this to see if something went weird. The goal with these Common Course outcomes is college-wide. For every class, they have Common Course outcomes that say, I think it was like 80% of students are successful. And if we have a section that we didn't have 80% of students successful, we're going to give it a funny look and see, what was different about this section. Was it the instructor? Was it, it was an 8 a.m. class and no one likes to get up at 8 a.m. and get to class for that? Whatever, nonsense. So that sort of thing. So these are, we'll come back to these and look, and we can kind of see, okay, this is what I learned. Here was the assignment. Here was the quiz. Here's something that I was able to do to demonstrate, yes, I was able to accomplish this. And then I get to do all sorts of paperwork every time we want to measure these things. For our textbooks, we have 2 textbooks. They're both from Murrock. He's a great small little publisher, so they're not $200 Pearson textbooks or Cengage textbooks or anything. The one downside of that is Pearson is pushing their unlimited plan, where you can rent every Pearson textbook ever for any class you're in, and they're like, hey, cool, school, you should use all of our books for every class ever because it's cheaper for students. Sort of is, but that just rubs me the wrong way, that they're like, hey, you need to use all of our books, otherwise your cost, I don't know. So their books are a little cheaper. I'm sorry there's 2 of them, but we're doing PHP and Java, and they didn't have one that does both. They have e-versions that you can find that are generally cheaper than the physical copy, but if you like physical copies, go for it. I actually have the digital copies myself. I don't have the physical ones, because when I ask Murrock for a book, they're like, hey, do you want the ebook right now, or do you want me to ship you one? And I was like, well, I want it now. So I didn't want to wait. And they weren't going to give me both for, I don't know why, but I don't know. Anyway, so you can order it from the Campus Hub bookstore here, the school bookstore, which is weirdly still remote only, but they're going to open in October for reasons. I don't know. I'm sorry. Or your favorite online book retailer. And someone once told me if you Google hard enough, you could probably find a good discount code free somewhere. But Murrock's a nice guy, nice company. So I would appreciate you going the legit route and supporting them. Because it's not outrageous, but I get it. Textbooks suck. I hate buying them for my classes. So other material, other tools and software we're going to use for the course. We're going to make use of Github. Github is a hosting provider of the Git source control tool. So Git is the most widely used source control tool out in the industry. Somewhere around 70% of all code is managed in Git, if you believe the surveys they give to people, and maybe there's some bias there with who actually fills them out, but it's wildly popular. GitHub just is one provider of that service. There are several big providers of this service. They do a really nice job of it. They have some cool tools that I can use for the classroom to make life easier for me, and then their web interface is just really nice. And that's what I use professionally. I'm used to it, so it's comfort for me. It is free. You can make a free account. Please don't, there are paid versions of it. We don't need them. All you need is the free account. All right, please don't give anybody money for any of this stuff. I'll get you all set up, but you make an account. Typically, if you want to move on in the software industry, a somewhat convention nowadays is when you apply in your resume, you have a link to your GitHub profile, and you might have some projects you did for school, or you might have some open source stuff, which very few people actually do the open source stuff, but if you can put it on your profile, it's like, hey, look, I did a thing. It's hard to contribute to sometimes though, but you would give your GitHub account. So I'd recommend you not use some sort of ridiculous username like Mr. Fuzzy Pants, but it doesn't have to have your real name in it. Just something not ridiculous is probably fine. Or you can always make a brand new one, but generally try and keep it somewhat professional there. The GitHub desktop client is the piece of software that we're going to use that communicates with GitHub. So all of the code that we write in PHP and in Java is going to go through the GitHub desktop client out to github.com. And the beautiful thing of that is it's on someone else's computer or the cloud. And if it's out in the cloud, you can't lose it. Right? Bad things can still happen to your laptop, and it'll still feel really bad for you if your dog eats your laptop, but it won't lose your code. And generally, that's the important thing to not have lost, because that's all the work you put into it. So source control is fantastic because we will get it out there in the cloud on GitHub's computers. Discord for office hours or Zoom. I'm fine with Zoom as well, whichever you prefer. Discord is just generally easier because it's just open on my laptop and it's a chat program. And like we can go from just chatting about a problem to a voice call or screen sharing like that. But I'm not opposed to Zoom at all. I just, this one's my preference. We're going to make use of the Open Jdk Library. If you had the Java class, hopefully you heard about when Oracle bought Java, they decided to license Java, which is really weird for an open source software stack that had never been a pay to use before. So the kind folks out in the community said, well, screw you, Oracle, we're going to do our own version that's free, actually free. I mean, their licensing, it wasn't even outrageous, but just the fact that they did it kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So there's now an open version of the JDK, the Java Development Kit, and then there's the Oracle version. We're going to use the Open JDK because I want you to know how to use that one in case you ever want to do something with your software. You can't make money from it unless you've licensed it from Oracle if you're using their version. Now, their version is slightly easier. Like it actually has a real installer and things, but it's really not much more of a hassle to use this Open JDK. So I'll show you how to do that when we get to the Java side of things. We're going to use NetBeans as our integrated development environment. Hopefully you used it for Java. Most everyone uses it for Java, except for a couple of people at a different campus that I can't tell what to do. But everyone here on our campus should use NetBeans if you took a Java course. If you've never used it before, it's okay. It's not a hard tool. It's really nice and actually has a lot of cool, convenient features to make your life easy, as opposed to a tool like JGrasp. We're going to use this Xampp tool. Xampp is really nice because it's going to install the rest of the software for us, so we don't need to do it individually. It's going to install our Apache web server. It's going to install a MySQL database management system. It's going to install a Tomcat web server for us. So we're going to use Apache for PHP, we're going to use Tomcat for Java, and it installs all three of them for us all at once and gives us a nice little button that says Start. So it's a pretty handy tool for that. This is focused on development. They have a different tool that you would use if you actually were to be on a production web server. So none of the things we do should you just copy paste out to a production web server. Right? We can't duplicate it exactly the same because the way that we're doing our development, things are a little bit more open and not necessarily done the right way, but we don't have time to go through all of that. There's a whole web server administration course you can take if you're curious about that sort of the process of managing web servers out in the real internet. Everything here is just going to be done locally. So it'll just be available on our computer unless you jump through a bunch of hoops to publish it and make it available outside. So it just makes it easier to learn the things. We don't have to go through all the setup hoops of a real production side of things. If you don't want to install everything, you can also use the virtual desktop, which is now kind of cool because if they worked right, which they should now, they didn't Monday, but after the last couple of days, we've gotten these computers to work better. They should turn themselves on and launch to a login page, another login screen that's called the virtual desktop. And that virtual desktop is the same one that you can use from home, and it should actually be your exact same session on the same server there. So you can use this virtual desktop if you'd like. So if you want to use your personal computer, your laptop, great. We can install all the tools. I'll help you do it tonight. No big deal. I mean, I've got my own laptop. I'm not using the virtual desktop because that's my preference. But this is a great option here if you just want simple, because everything's already done and installed, and they just work. It can take a little bit of tweaking here and there to make everything else go here. Maddie Cakes said their dog ate their laptop. Yeah, I think I'm a little behind on watching chat. I'm sorry. It's at home. I had like 2 monitors, nice stacked, and I didn't have to look left and right and hurt my neck. But I'll get used to this. It'll just take me a little bit. All right, so let's load the software. Again, we'll go through installing it later tonight. I know it looks like a big list, but it's not too bad. And we'll go from there. Policies for the course. Policies on plagiarism and cheating. This is a particular pet peeve of mine. And hopefully it's a pet peeve of yours as well, because if people cheat and get the degree, when they get hired, they're going to be clueless and not be able to do the job. And then that employer won't want to hire anybody from OCC anymore because they're going to think we're terrible and don't actually teach anything. So I do my best to make sure cheaters don't get degrees. So if you engage in academic dishonesty, if you cheat, which includes taking someone else's work and presenting it as your own, that's plagiarism. Think back to your English class. If you just copy paste a big thing from online and turn it in with your name on it, that's plagiarism, that's cheating. Same thing happens with code. I'm not dumb. I know there's a website called Stack Overflow that has all sorts of code out there. Right? I'm aware this exists. Okay. If you just copy paste it and you don't cite your source, that's plagiarism. Right? My goal when I make silly assignments and practice things for you to do is that you can't Google the answer. Right? You shouldn't just be able to go out and find a solution to it. So you're not going to go grab an entire solution and say, oh, here's my source, but you didn't write any of it. Right? Maybe you went out and found, I don't know, how you can find a prime number in PHP if we're doing a silly project with numbers. If you take one little small piece of it, that's perfectly fine. Cite your source, just like an English paper. Say, hey, this is not mine. This is someone else's idea. And then you add your original work to it. We're fine. I'm totally cool with that. And I'll show you how to add a citation in code. It's just a comment. They'll say, hey, here's the website I used. Perfect. We'll be good. So if you're not sure, please ask me. Right? One semester I had to fail 8 people on their final project because they thought they could just copy paste someone else's project and turn it in. In addition to that, under no circumstances at all may you use chegg.com. Right? Don't even go there. I hope they go out of business and get sued because they are horrible, terrible people who let students pay to cheat with their, quote, tutoring service and say, please do my homework for me. It's a bunch of nonsense. They have the ability to not allow my stuff to be posted on their website, but they will only do it for 36 hours if I tell them it's for an exam. After that, they say, screw you, Eric, and students can post my stuff. So I despise Chegg. I think they're terrible people. So don't ever go there, right? If you cite a source from Chegg, that's considered academic dishonesty, right? That's a violation of our policy. You will immediately fail the class if you violate this policy. I don't tolerate it, and cheaters should not get degrees. So there is no, hey, I got a 0 on the assignment. Hey, can I try again? Hey, I made a mistake. If you're not sure, you need to ask me, right? And if you don't want to ask me, you probably are cheating too much, right? Because you found the whole thing and said, oh, Eric, can I actually turn in someone else's thing and put my name on it? No, that's not cool, right? Apologize, I sound like a big jerk, but this is a big pet peeve of mine. And then when people do fail, I have to fill out a form. I have to add all sorts of different types of documentation. I have to submit. It takes me a good hour to fill this thing out and send it to my dean. And then the dean gets to deal with you. And our deans here at the college keep a 3-strike policy. So if you're in violation of this 3 times throughout the entire college, you'll be expelled and no longer be welcome a student here, which is great. We should get rid of cheaters. I'm all for that. So the OCC handbook quote here, this is the important part. Don't engage in behavior in which, in the judgment of me, is academic dishonesty. So I'm telling you, this is what is not okay. Right? We don't plagiarize. It's essentially all we can do here. The other thing you could do is cheat by working together, sharing code. Essentially, one of you would be plagiarizing off the other one at that point. So it's still plagiarism, right? If you work together and turn in the same thing, because one of you copied off the other. Okay? Plagiarism, presenting someone's ideas as your own without giving credit. Other forms of academic dishonesty, which is acquisition of tests or other academic material or distribution of the same. I assumed people would understand that posting academic material on chegg.com and asking for solutions would be a violation of this policy. That wasn't clear a couple semesters ago, so now I've added this no use of chegg.com at all because I had to fail a bunch of people for posting it on Chegg and then saying, oh, here, I cited my source. No, you can't distribute the material and ask people to do the work for you. I don't know why that wasn't clear. Boggles my mind. And this is also students who aid and abet. So if your classmate says, hey, can I see your project? I just want to see if I did it the same way. Tell them to get lost, right? Because if you give them your code, they're probably going to turn it in with their name on it, and then you will both fail the class. And you'll both be upset with me and upset with my dean. I've had people complain before and say they're going to go appeal it to the dean. They'll complain and say, it wasn't fair. They didn't understand the policy. I'm too mean. I'm just a big jerk. I've failed more than 30 people, and I've never had my dean say I did it wrong. Right? It's just not happened. So, again, I don't mean to come off as a big jerk, but you just don't cheat. It's not hard. Right? You're paying money to come to the class to learn the things, hopefully. And if you don't want to learn it, don't be here. Go home. Right? If you're not here to learn, you've got no business here. Like, I know it's a check mark on this list of things you have to do for a degree, but you shouldn't get a degree if it's just a check mark for you. Right? I know that's sort of how the world works, but like the reason why we have them is so you can learn things. All right, sorry, I'll stop ranting. Other things from the code of conduct. This is just a copy paste. boilerplate stuff. What people care about, how you get your letter grade. So I go with a weighted system, and that means among the projects that are assigned, the 4 projects we're going to do, overall your score for those is worth 35% of your grade in the class. So just because a project is worth 10 points and a quiz is worth 10 points does not mean they're actually worth the same overall towards your grade. So all the pieces, all the projects that are assigned, all of those points will get totaled up. Your percentage of those points will be 35% of your overall grade in the class. Okay. If you're not exactly sure how that all works, I'm happy to show you a little Excel spreadsheet. It's nice and easy. D2L will keep this up to date for us as I enter stuff. D2L is really good at this. We'll have chapter quizzes. These are open book, open notes. Developers get paid a lot of money and no one ever tells them to do it from memory because that'd be stupid, right? Like you want your developers to use their resources and go look stuff up if they don't know it. So what I expect is that you know where to go find the answers. Please don't memorize anything. It's not worth it, right? We got enough things going on in our head. You don't need to waste your memory space trying to cram and memorize everything in the book. That's a waste of your time. But like, know what the sections are. Okay, this section talks about this particular tool. This section talks about this. This is how I would do database access, whatever it happens to be. Know where to go look it up. That's all you need. That being said, you should still read the book, though. Just because you don't have to memorize it doesn't mean you shouldn't read it. So the quizzes here are your incentive to have mostly read the chapter, right? There's some difference between reading every single word and like just skimming the paragraph headings. You got to be in that sweet spot in the middle, okay? So maybe you didn't read every single word, but like you read most of every paragraph. You did more than just like flip through and look at the bold words. That's not going to cut it, right? So this should be free points for you. They're untimed except for the due date, right? So at the end of every week, I'll post the quiz. It'll be due the next week. So you have all week to do the reading, or open up the quiz, do the reading, or open up the quiz, look for this particular piece to find that question, to find the answer for it, whatever you need to do to get those points. It should be 100% for everybody, okay? That's the goal with those, but that's your incentive to read the book. We'll have one exam in the class, just a single midterm exam. That's worth only 15%. I try and keep this as low as possible because I hate exams. I don't think they measure what they're supposed to measure. I much more heavily weight the projects, and you'll notice we have a final project with a huge weight. So the exam's just a small portion of your score. This one does typically have a time-bound clock. So once you hit start, you have 4 hours to hit finish. That just tries to level the playing field for everybody so that if you don't have a day job or you don't have kids or you don't have an aging parent that you have to take care of and you've got nothing else to do all week long, you're not going to get 3 times the time to do it as someone who's got a bunch of other responsibilities. So everyone will get the same 4-hour chunk. So with this one, if you do have some sort of accommodations through the Americans with Disabilities Act, have the Access Office send me your paperwork, and I'm happy to work with you on that. Typically people, like with dyslexia or other things, need time and a half on tests because of the reading portion. Perfectly fine to work with you. But I need the paperwork from Access. Right? Without that, I can't do accommodations. And I'll give you the exam from last semester as a practice one. So you'll see exactly what my format looks like. It's half quiz-style questions and half write a little small snippet of code. I'm not going to ask you to do anything big like a project, but like here's one particular tool or technique showing that you can use it. So I'll give you last semester's exam we can look at when we get closer. It should be low stress, but I know exams suck, so I apologize. But just the one small one. And then the final project. So the first 2/3 of class will be doing individual projects, working on small things, and the last month of class will be focused on the final project, trying to put it all together, build sort of a capstone style project, a big thing. And this one here is worth 40% of your overall grade. If you notice these letter grades here, you can't even get a D without that final project. Right? I am super happy when everybody gets 100% on the final project. The goal is you walk out of this class with something like actually substantial that you can talk about. It might not be the most interesting thing on your resume, but it's something you can talk about. Like, hey, I built this thing from the ground up. I understand the nuts and bolts. I understand the database here. I understand how I'm interacting with it, how the things that we do. It's something you can talk about in an interview. Right? And it should be interesting enough. That's the goal. It shouldn't just be a boring, hey, check a bunch of boxes. So I've gotten relatively good feedback from people who finish it. Some people don't finish it. And I asked them why they didn't finish it, and they say they got stuck. And I asked why they didn't tell me they got stuck, and they said, oh, they got busy. I mean, other than that, people either get like 100% or they just totally fail it. I don't often get people in that middle ground. So my goal for this is that I am helping you learn the material. From everything we understand with how people learn, I'm not actually teaching you anything. Like, I'm giving you examples, and you're the one processing them, thinking about it, trying to go through it again to learn the material yourself. So I'm not teaching anything here. I'm helping you learn it. You've got the books as your sources. You've got me. And I am happy to work with you on your code, on your projects. The only thing I ask is you spend at least a good half hour to hour trying to puzzle through it yourself. But I feel really bad. I have people like, oh, I spent all 8 hours today working on this. I got stuck here, and they finally reach out to me. They're pissed off at me. They're pissed off at the project. They think they're stupid. And it's like a 2-minute fix. Like, it was just one thing went wrong here with a setting somewhere. Or they just had to fix this one thing, and then back up and running. So please don't waste your whole day. Right? That just makes everyone feel bad. So at least a good half hour trying to figure it out yourself. Come ask me. I'm not going to tell you to go away. I'm not going to code it for you, but I'll get you unstuck and get you moving again on the projects. I'm happy to help with those. So last summer semester, just still don't know what time this year it is. It's 2021, right? The summer semester, I think probably 2/3 of people got 100% on the project. It was great. And a couple people, like, just they got as much done as they could, and they didn't care anymore. They took their C, and they were happy. Sure, that's fine. Like, if all you need is transfer credit, a C usually transfers. I respect that. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to get 100% A's unless you're that kind of person. It's okay. My sister-in-law, bless her heart, is like a 4.0 student. She's back at grad school now and like stresses over every single percentage. And like, what do you call a doctor who graduated last in their class? Doctor. Still a doctor, as long as you graduate. Just a little scary sometimes when you go meet people, but so the letter grade percentage-wise, right? If you're looking for a particular GPA, this is your scale here. My advice, if you are planning on getting internships in the future, or moving on to like a 4-year degree and having internships, a lot of larger organizations, just as a filter, use a 3.0 or maybe even a 3.5, depending on how they're feeling, as like a cutoff. They won't even look at your resume. So if that's in your mind and plan, that's a good goal to aim for, at least a 3.0 or 3.5 if you can help it, because that will make a big difference in internships when you get there. And if you do want to move on for a 4-year computer science degree, all computer science degrees require calculus. I had to take calculus 2 twice because it was not the easiest class for me, despite me liking math. If you take it at a community college and then transfer, the only thing on your university transcript is transfer credit. There's no letter attached. There's no GPA attached. So that's your pro tip there. And I think we do a phenomenal job here at the community college. We have an amazing math lab with dedicated math tutors. We got our academic support center. And you're not going to be in a class with like 300 people, right? A class with 30 people or less, and you can actually talk to your prof. So, but maybe I'm a little biased towards OCC. Go figure. For the end grade, I don't take attendance. So if you don't turn in the first thing, like the syllabus quiz we're going to do, you're likely to get an end grade for not doing anything. So just showing up in a seat doesn't actually cut it. You'll have to turn something in if then you want to go to the class, right? The college gets all big on this. Apparently, if you get federal funding for things and you stop attending classes, the feds actually take the money back from us, and then we have to go ask you for it back, and this whole big nonsense thing. So they like to remind us all the time about these end grade things. So at least the syllabus quiz. And if I haven't heard from you, I'm going to be reaching out. So I think you folks will all be fine. Late work, I don't take it. The idea with the projects is the night that it's due, it'll be due at 6 p.m. every Thursday, or on Thursday, so not every Thursday. On Thursdays, it'll be due at 6 p.m. The first thing I'm going to do in class is go over how I would solve the project. And I'll go over my solution to it. And we'll build the code from scratch. It takes a little bit of time to do that, but typically people seem to like seeing a different approach, or what my approach would be to solving problems, to give you another chance to, hey, these are the tools we talked about the last 2 weeks, and this is how I would use them to solve this problem. And everyone does it different. And that's what's really cool with programming, is it really is as much of an art as it is a science. Right? Obviously, there's the science side of things, and there's the right way to solve problems. We can do all sorts of cool things with our technology. But how you solve problems and how you break them apart and how you structure your code is really an art. And that's the fun part for me. That's the creative part for me. For FERPA, essentially, if you ask me about scores or grades or anything, I'm going to say go look in D2L. That's our course management system. It's all there, and you should be the only one who can log in. It's nice and easy. So I'm not going to tell mom or dad if they call me, which is really weird to have mom or dad call me. It's happened one time. I just don't get it. I don't understand it, but that's okay. I'll just say go look in D2L. For the Americans with Disabilities Act, if you have particular accommodations, contact the Access Office. They will send me the paperwork, and then I'm happy to work with you. Just note, it's not automatic. Just because they send me paperwork doesn't mean I'm going to do anything. You and I still need to have that conversation. Okay? So once it's on file, great. Then I'm happy to chat with you about whatever accommodations we need that are reasonable. But you've got to come and ask. The Academic Sports Center. This is one of the coolest things we have here at the college. This entire office is dedicated to student success. They've got labs. They've got free is the wrong word. They have no additional charge tutoring. It's paid for by your tuition dollars and tax dollars through Oakland County and things like that. So it's not really free, but there's no additional charge for it. I believe we have a tutor here who tutors for $24.54. I got to double check that again. They just changed it up on me. Miss Rika is fantastic. She's been with us for several years now as a tutor after graduating. I can't imagine she's paid well, but well enough, I guess, to stick around for us. And she's fantastic. So she does virtual appointments or in-person appointments, depending on the day, for $24.54, and for basically most of our classes. No one else tutors for that $24.54, unfortunately. But that's available at no additional charge for you. The only thing they ask is that if you make an appointment, you keep it. If you ghost them twice, they stop letting you book appointments. So I think that's kind of fair because that wastes everybody's time. So that's out there as well. And this is the only campus 2454 is taught on. And there are tutoring schedules for other campuses, but I'd be really surprised if anyone was on another campus tutoring for it because we only ever teach it here. But if you find it, let me know. I just haven't bothered to click all the links. For D2L issues, our course management tool, if the page isn't loading or something like errors on you when you try and submit stuff, you can call their help desk. Anything content related is all me. I'm the one putting all the content out here. All right. So generally it works pretty well. I think we've had an outage maybe once a year where a big thing happens and it stops working. And if that happens, we'll roll with it. We'll figure it out. It'll come back up soon. It's not the end of the world. For accessibility, technical skills, file management is huge. Understanding how we can put files in the right place, find files, move them around, that sort of thing. Web navigation is great. Other than that, we can go from there. For accessibility, got a link here. Our technology appropriate use regulations is don't do stupid stuff with college resources. Right? If you do stupid stuff with college resources, you're likely to lose access to them. And if you don't have access to D2L or the college computers here, it's going to be really hard to turn your work in and get a grade. All right, so let's just not do stupid stuff, please. I mean, and we all agreed to it as soon as you hit OK to the page, but no one ever reads it anyway. But you can go read it. For netiquette, just be kind. I don't grade on grammar. It's not a particular skill of mine. Not that professional communication is not important, but that's not the focus of this class, and I don't want to have to spend the time nitpicking your grammar and punctuation and stuff like that. Just don't be a jerk, and we'll be okay. For public safety, we do have badged police officers here at all the campuses. They're fantastic. Until I can get keys, I either pester them or my amazing parapros to open doors for me because I don't have a key to my office yet. It's been a weird pandemic, but they're awesome. And one of the things they do provide, and they're happy to do, is as it starts to get darker and darker and darker at night, if you don't want to walk out to your dark car all by yourself, they're happy to escort you. So at one point in time, this parking lot that's all torn up now right over here had no lights in it. The last time they renovated it, they added brand new lights, but it was like completely dark in a winter semester. I didn't even like walking out in the parking lot in that because I just, not afraid of the dark. I just don't like it. Who knows what's out there? So maybe I'm paranoid. But everyone could do with like a little bit of paranoia, right? It's probably okay. For me, if you've read any of the Rate My Professor reviews lately, I sucked at this. The pandemic has been horrible. I'm hoping now that we're back in person and somewhat more regular, this should go a whole lot better now that just life has a routine again. Typically within a week of the due date, I'll have the stuff graded. So if you turn it in early, I wait till it's all in so I can evaluate it all at once. So I can see like if everyone did really bad at this one thing, maybe I didn't do so good job showing you some examples, right? And that's on me and I can adjust it if needed. But within a week of the due date, I'll typically have the stuff back for you. For communications, 24 hours or less, basically all the time. It's on my phone. If you don't hear back from me, please feel free to pester me again. It's possible I just dismissed the notification and forgot about it and lost it into my pile of email or pile of messages. I try really hard not to let that happen, but sometimes it does, and I apologize in advance. So just ask me again. Like, you don't even have to wait 24 hours. Like, if you haven't heard from me in 12 hours, pester me again. That's all good. I don't want you to get stuck and be frustrated and not know what's going on. So happy to jump in and help and answer questions. All right, and then our course schedule. All right, we're almost through the syllabus. My goodness, it's been, sorry. I get bored hearing my own voice. So it is subject to change if necessary. That's the big disclaimer here, but this is the plan. If we do change it, I'll let you know. So tonight, the course introduction tools overview, we're going to talk about Project Zero, which is, can you use all the tools to make a Hello World program in PHP and turn it in? That's my check to make sure everyone has working software. This was a little bit more important when we didn't have computers in front of us and everyone had to be learning from home. But still, everyone should be able to do this the very first night. Or if not the first night, if you're burned out and want to go home, watch the recording, you can do it after the fact. Like, I'll do this in front of you and you guys just repeat the steps just to make sure everything works. That's the goal tonight. So that one will be due next week. I want everyone to have things working. Someone didn't do that one time, and then the first project came due by week 4, and they're like, oh, I can't get PHP to start 4 weeks into class. Like, friends, you got to try this stuff. So that's why we have that. So every other project then is due 2 weeks later. So we have a project every 2 weeks through the midterm, and then the last month of class, we pick up the final project. That's the typical pace. And again, I don't take things late, so please plan accordingly. Like, you don't need to start it and finish it the very first day, but give yourself some time. Think about when we're going to do, when you're going to work on the assignments and things, so you don't get stuck. Way too often, I had people like Wednesday night coming to my office hours. Actually, I had office hours like 10 to 11 p.m. on Wednesdays, and it was great. I had regularly had people coming because some people are late night people like I am. And that was great, like getting stuck on the project and having essentially just started on it. And that's always an embarrassing conversation when they come to me like, hey, I didn't start yet. I'm kind of stuck and it's due in like 18 hours. So don't do that, please. It stresses me out. I'm sure it would stress you out. So plan ahead, work on it, get started on it. I'm happy to get you unstuck. So the getting you unstuck is difficult if you have less than 24 hours. And if more than one of you does that, and I've got multiple classes, multiple classes, everyone waits to the last minute, it just makes that day really stressful. And then if I say, oh, I'm busy, I can't meet with you, people get frustrated at me. And I don't know, I think that's unfair, but maybe that's just me. All right, so plan ahead. So course introduction tools overview tonight. Next week, we'll actually get into the actual content. So we're essentially doing a lot of the stuff out of the appendix here, like how you install PHP on your laptop. If you're using the college computer or the virtual desktop, great, it's done. You don't have to worry about it. But if you have your own laptop or if you want to do all this work from home, we'll go through the steps. And then kind of jump around. We do most of the chapters, but then we skip a couple. So 1 and 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, 5, 6, and 7. These ones are relatively short, so we bundle them all up together one night. And then 11, 12, 13, so we skip a couple in the middle there. And then we skip another bunch of chapters, and we wrap up the last little bit of PHP, talking about secure websites, basic authentication, and email. Secure websites is the right thing to do. There's a built-in way to do it with Apache, but that's not how you do it in production. So we're going to talk about doing it, but I'm not going to ask you to do it. Because to actually get a real certificate to do all these things and have good secure communication generally costs you money. And my goal is to not cost you more money than you've already paid. But we'll talk about how you would do it. For email, I'll show you how to do it, but I'm not actually going to put in a username and password. And then there's better ways to put in passwords that you need to use for doing email and all sorts of other sort of things when you're communicating with databases. Not in your code on github.com. We're going to do the cheap thing and say, we don't have time to worry about that and look at the right things to do because those are a little trickier and every company might do it a little bit differently. So we're going to do the bad thing and put our passwords in our code on github.com and we're going to feel really bad about it. But not too much because that's all we can do. So we'll get to that. Then we switch over in week 7 over to JSP, the Java side of things. Essentially anything you can do in PHP, you can do in Java. You can do more things in Java than you can in PHP because you have the entire Java JDK available to you to do anything you can imagine behind the scenes with Java. PHP can do a lot of things, but maybe not quite as much as Java. But like Facebook was originally written in PHP, so you can do a lot of really cool things with PHP. Like, I'm not downplaying it at all, but Java tends to be a little bit more enterprise side of things. If we're building out enterprise web applications with all sorts of interesting integrations with different tools and other things, Java is still really popular for that. But PHP is still really powerful, does a lot of things. And the final project, you can either use Java or PHP, whichever you prefer. The problem is we've gotten through most of Java, all the things we need to do, except for the database and stuff by the time I introduce the final project. It feels a little early to introduce it before we've done the Java database stuff, but I want to at least put it out there so you can get started on it if you want to. And then the very next week, we'll talk about databases, and then we'll pick up sessions and cookies that you need to do all the authentication side of things, because we'll have to like log into our final project website and do a bunch of things and have different users and all sorts of fun stuff. So some people prefer Java though, and they're more familiar with Java, and that's what they like, and they'll do their final project in Java. Great. Other people said, oh, we've already done all the PHP stuff, I'll just keep doing PHP. Either one's fine with me. They both work. So moving on through, the last 12.9 is it's designed to be a short week, in that the DOM Ajax frameworks, I'll go over some highlights here. We're not going to use any particular framework. There are a lot of really cool frameworks for PHP and for Java to be faster at these things. We're technically teaching you the slow way, which feels a little bit unfortunate, but if you don't know what the slow way is, when you look at what a framework does and it's just kind of like magically happens, if it doesn't do exactly what you want it to do, it's really, really, really hard to make it fit and make it work, because it will only do the things the framework does, and they do them in a certain way. So we figure if we teach you the basics, you can learn different frameworks. They're quick to pick up. Like any framework will have a little getting started website you can go through, and within a week you can be pretty fluent on that framework if you spend enough time on it. But if you understand the basics, you kind of understand what's happening behind the scenes. If that's too loud, we can close the door too. I'm sorry. So we'll pick that up the last week, and then we'll have time to work on the final project. I typically like people to work in pairs. Generally require it. I know it's a little crazy here with COVID times, so I'll let that be optional again. But we'll have time at the end of class this week. We'll definitely have time at the end of 12.2 as well to get together with your partner if you folks want to pair up and work on it. If you don't, that's okay. I get it. It's, whatever. We'll get back to somewhat normal eventually, I hope. When we can, I can start saying, please work in a group and get together and sit next to each other. But, until then, it'll be an option for you. Yeah, I think that's it for the course schedule. Man, I need a drink. So I drink coffee 24 hours a day, or the 20 hours a day I'm awake or whatever it is, all the time. And I just usually sip on it while I'm talking, and my mouth just gets so dry now. It's really sad. So we'll probably take a break every 30, 45 hour, I don't know, at least every hour. I'm happy to take more breaks than that if you folks want one. You're welcome to just stand up and go as well. But if 2 or 3 of you stand up and go, I'll probably say, oh, let's just take a break. People are tired and want a break, want to go outside, get something to drink, walk around, get some fresh air or something. I'm cool with that. I'm very informal. Eric is perfectly fine to call me. I know Professor Chernesky is a whole lot of syllables, and by the time you're done saying that, you're going to forget what the question was anyway. So Eric's fine. Shout at me in the middle of class. You're welcome to raise your hand, and I'll probably see it eventually. But a lot of times I'm going to be looking down at my monitor doing things, and I might not see your hand right away. And it's not that I'm ignoring you. It's just, I just don't see it. So just shout out. Say, hey, I got a question, or stop, or I don't know, whatever you want. And we go from there. If you're online, again, I'm trying to monitor chat. I'm generally pretty good at keeping up with that. You can tag me in chat if you want. It pops up extra bright if you tag me in it in Twitch chat, that's fine. Or if you're following things asynchronously, if you have a question about something, when you're viewing a video on YouTube, there's a share button. And when you click the share button, let me show you real quick. You can say share at a particular time. And if you do that, I'll know exactly what I was talking about at that time. But if you just say, hey, when you're talking about PHP loops, I'm not going to actually remember exactly when that was. So if you want to link me to a particular time, that'd be really helpful. So I don't like any of these. Here, we'll do last semester. So I have all the videos out from last semester. out here in a playlist. I'm going to start building out new playlists here. Like if you're at a particular point in time and you click share, you get an option to start at. Just check that box and it'll say, hey, starting right here. And you can give me that link. And you can say, hey, right here when you're talking about this thing, can you tell me more or what was going on or whatever it is? So that'll help make the questions a little bit better. And in terms of asking questions, I would love if you folks were comfortable enough to just post your questions in the course Discord channel. The idea with that is if you're not sure about something, I can pretty much guarantee someone else is not sure about that exact same thing because I probably just didn't do a good job not explaining it. So if you post it there in the public Discord channel, everyone gets to see the question and everyone gets to see the answer, just like if we were here in person all the time, you would ask a question, everyone hears the question, and everyone hears the answer. So it benefits everybody. If you're not comfortable with that, that's fine. Email, direct message me on Discord, call, text. I'm perfectly fine answering those questions, but the preference is for the public Discord place. If something's not working with your code, please don't drop in 50 lines of code and say, hey, my project 1 here, I'm having a problem with this line, because then you just put your code out there. All right, so we'll look at what we can do with GitHub to get our code in a place where you can see it and I can see it, and other than that, no one else can see it. And that makes life easier for me. Okay, we'll go over that in a little while. Got to take a break, got to get something to drink. So when we take 10 minutes or so, I'll put on a little break time screen here for everybody online. We'll come back to, let's say, 7:10. And we can go from there. All right, welcome on back. So we're going to do a quick overview of the tools. So the only ones we'll need for now are your GitHub account, the desktop GitHub client, and NetBeans and Xampp. I guess that's not only, that's a bunch of them. We'll be doing these ones to get us started on PHP. So let me go through it first. So if you're installing it behind the scenes, great. I'll go over what we're going to do for Project 0, and then I can stop the lecture time and I can walk around and help everyone get it done. Probably should be out of here by 8-ish or so, if not earlier. If you folks are quick at it, we'll be done. Okay? So I want to make sure we get all the tools up and running, and that's the rest of dedicated time tonight. Oh, I got to give you the syllabus quiz too. I'm sorry. Let me show you that. Give me 1 second here to load that. Forgot before I forget, because I want to go over it real quick and make sure I didn't miss anything that should have been in there. Probably that one. All right, cool. That's my quiz. Okay, I just need to make sure we have the right due date. So this will be by 11:59 p.m. next week. Give you a little bit of time if you want to take your sweet time on it. So that's 11:99. There we go. So it's just 8 questions. We'll go through it real quick here. Make sure I hit all the highlights. All right, different ways you can contact me. Right? Hopefully this is an easy one. To use all the tools required, you can do one of these 3 things, right? Or all the above. You can watch the lectures, your choice here, right? Attending supplemental instructor. Oh, this one should not be in there. I'm sorry. This is what I'm looking at. This came from our other class that we have group study sessions. My apologies. I should just say tutoring, right? Instead of that. Oh, if you click, okay, that one. Don't worry about that question. If you already clicked it, I'll try and pull it out real quick, but my mistake. I just edit it. Attend during session. You know, let me just delete the question. Forget that. They had some really cool stuff they did. If they looked at all the sections of a course that had supplemental instructor sessions and the ones that didn't, and then they looked at people's scores who attended the sessions and they didn't, and they were able to statistically prove that attending group study sessions or SI sessions improved students' grades, which I think was really cool, like to be able to show that statistically significant, which is really neat. All right, anyway, so if you have that question in there, just ignore it. It's fine. It's all the above, like the rest of them. It's not meant to be hard. These are free points for you going through, and this make sure people turn something in at least. Submitted after the due date will receive no credit without prior written approval. During my virtual office hours, here's a link to this form I mentioned. So if you go out here, it asks you to put a name in. You don't even need to use your real name. It can just be A, B, C, doesn't matter. And you don't need a password. Just drag and drop over the times that are good for you. And I'm going to find I've got 5.5 hours to fill. 5.5 hours that will meet the most people's availability schedules for my regular office hours. And again, if that doesn't work for you, I'm happy to book things by appointment at other times. But I do contractually need to show them that I have 5.5 standing office hours available for students. And again, I want to try and pick them for a day that's good for you, or a day and time. Last semester, I had a decent showing between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. And that was fine with me. I'm a late person. I don't have anything before 8 a.m. I got into the computer specifically so I wouldn't have to be up early in the morning. That's not my thing. I'm typically up till 1, 2, 3 in the morning usually, so that's just my kind of schedule. All right, so you can fill that out. And then this one is more reflection-based for you, for your benefit. I took a professional development course on doing online learning things, and this is one of their tips and tricks, so I'm trying it out. So the idea is that in a typical college course, for every hour in class, or for every credit, essentially, you're spending 2 hours outside of class doing the reading, doing projects, doing regular study things that you have to do, whatever it is, working towards the class. So for a 4-credit class, you're spending about 4 hours on Thursday nights here, or asynchronously, your choice, and then 8 hours outside of that, reading the chapters, doing the projects, whatever other things you have to do. So if you just actually plan that out into your schedule and say, hey, Tuesday afternoons are great for me. I'm going to put 2 hours in Tuesday afternoons. I'm going to put 4 hours in on Fridays. Whatever you want to do, try and plan out that 12 hours worth of work. Right? If you're coming in person, that's your 4 hours Thursday. Great. Find the other 8 hours in your schedule and actually try and plan it out. It makes you more successful and more likely to do it if you actually put it in your calendar. A lot of times you'll say, oh, I'll get it done whenever I have free time. And then we just don't get a big block of free time set aside because of reasons. And it happens to me too. I'm on Facebook way too. I guess you young people don't use Facebook anymore, right? It's not cool? Okay. All right. I spend too much time on Facebook and playing games like Skyrim and Civilization and things. Or beating my kids at Mario Kart. They're still, even my 13-year-old is surprisingly bad at Mario Kart on the Switch. Like, I think by the time I was like 10, I could beat everything easily. And I don't know. Anyway. So plan that time, right? Set it aside when you're going to do it. I'm not going to hold you to it. Like, this is let's think through it. And the last one here is, for me and for you, don't put your name here if you don't understand the policy, right? If you understand the academic policy, integrity policy on plagiarism and cheating, put your name down. If you're not sure and want to talk to me about it, please talk to me about it. I'm happy to clarify anything. I know I went on a really big long rant because this is a big pet peeve of mine. But now that I ask people to do this, I also have this additionally when I turn in all my paperwork to the dean. I'll say, hey, look, they said they understood the policy. Right? So I can't have people, oh, I didn't know I was going to fail for cheating. Like, you put your name here, friend. So I started doing this years ago now. Like, in every class, everyone agrees to the policy. It used to be, we actually had like a standard paper form at one point that you had to fill out. And I just hate doing things on paper. So now it's in D2L. So if I need it, I just go print it off as a PDF and it goes into my attachment to the file to the dean's office and all that nonsense. So a bunch of free points here for the quiz. Just sometime in the next week, do that one. So typically with our chapter quizzes, I'll have them do the next week by 11:59 p.m. So just in case you forget to do it, we'll get to class in the morning, or at the start, not the morning, but the start of class, and I'll say, hey, don't forget you've got a quiz due in like 6 hours. And then you can say, oh crap, I forgot to do it. And you can go take the quiz and ignore me while I'm talking and whatever you have to do. I get it. Right, that's okay. But all the quizzes will be due Thursdays, 11:59 p.m. for our chapter quizzes. Well, that's the goal. All right, cool. So we got the syllabus quiz. We're going to go back to the tools. Right. So if you have a GitHub account and you have NetBeans, we'll be in good shape. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the manual process. The GitHub Classroom tool is really nice and automates all of this for me. So you don't have to go through these steps. But I'm going to make a repository. The GitHub Classroom automates it. So you don't need to make your own repository. You'll click a link and it'll do it for you. It'll give me access, it'll give you access, and everyone will be happy. For the course, I'm going to make a single repository. So all of the code that I do in class, all the PHP and Java code I do, is going to be out here on this site. It's a public repository. So I mean anyone can get to it. I'm not going to put file attachments in D2L because code does not belong in D2L. My goodness. It is not meant for code. It sucks at code. Sucks at doing attachments. I hate D2L. I mean, in terms of coding, if I upload an English paper, perfect. It can take a doc file, no problem. But if you want to give me a bunch of Java files or PHP files, it's going to get super confused and upset. So this will be CIS 2454, fall 2021. And I do have last semesters out there as well. If you're bored and want to watch the videos and look at the code from last semester, go for it. If you want to work ahead. Go for it. I pick different projects every semester, so like you're not going to see me solving a project that you're also going to get, so I don't really care that it's out there public. It's a public repository. I want a README file. Again, README files, these are just a nice little view. It's a markdown file you can see on the website. It's just a quick little pretty place to do some explanations. They're not required or anything. It's totally optional there. This Git Ignore is fantastic. This tells the Git source control tool to not upload certain types of files. Generally, the rule of thumb is if you can build the file or compile it and generate it, it doesn't need to go into source control. What goes into a source control tool is your source code. In addition to that, you also get a bunch of like tool-related things. So NetBeans will upload a bunch of NetBeans files so that it knows it's a NetBeans project. Perfectly fine. We could care less. That just makes life easy. But we're going to ignore all the other things. And now there's not one for PHP. We're going to use the one for Java, which is fine because I'm going to do both PHP and Java as well. So that'll make life good. And then for mine, I'm going to attach a license. For you, it does not matter. There is no license attached to your code. It's your code. It's not mine. But it's not really going to sell it or use it for anything anyway. But just if you're worried about it, there's no license attached. I think you could add one to it. Probably. I don't know. Anyway, so I'll make the repository. So this will be where all the code examples in class go. So I'm going to post this website out here in D2L. Put a little link to it here. So when I do everything, it's going to be in this repository. And a repository is just a big fancy word for folder. So all a repository is a folder on your computer. Now what GitHub lets me do is it lets me synchronize my computer's folder with github.com's version of it. And it will keep them in sync. The other cool thing you do with github.com or any other Git tool is you can collaborate with other developers. And multiple people can work on the same repository, the same folder, and they can synchronize their changes with the central location. So it's this idea of pushing and pulling. You push changes out, you pull changes down. So if someone else makes a change and syncs, then you need to pull the change to synchronize. If you make a change, you need to push the change to synchronize. It's just a push and pull. It's generally pretty straightforward. So this is the course repository. It can get a little funny if you both modify the same thing at the same time and both try and push. It's going to get a little bit confused. There's really easy ways to solve that. It's a little, it's not hard to solve it, but it takes a bunch of steps. And every time I show people, they get really confused. So we just don't usually do it. When we get to the final project, and if you want to work in pairs, I'd be happy to work with your group to like show you, hey, if you both modify the same file, these are the steps we have to take. Most people, when they work in pairs, say, hey, I'll do this part, you do this part, and it just works out nice. So it's up to you. And I can almost always get you unstuck if you get stuck somewhere. Pretty good at that. All right, so that's our course repository. All the code's going to go there. So if you've downloaded the GitHub desktop client and logged into it, you'll get this nice little cool purple icon. I think that's a cat or something, the GitHub cat. You don't even need to open it. GitHub gives you a nice little shortcut here, the website. You can click the button and say, open with the desktop tool. If you like to open the desktop tool first, go for it. Again, there's like 3 different ways to do anything when it comes to programming. Whichever way you prefer is great. So what this is going to do is it's going to now clone the repository. So Git is a distributed source control system, which means anybody who works with that repository will have the entire copy of everything ever for that repository. They get their own copy of the folder. So this process is called cloning. It makes a clone of that repository. I'll have everything. Now right now it's really boring, it's empty. If you go get a job doing some sort of development work, there's probably a lot of history out there that you're going to go and grab. You'll see the project from the very first start, if they've been using Git forever, up to its current state. And you can see thousands and thousands and thousands of changes and commits and things. And it's really cool. It's a great tool for that. But it's also a great tool for us just working individually, because then the cloud will have your code and then I'll be able to see it online. You'll be able to see it online. You don't have to send me file attachments. Some people love sending me screenshots of their code. And it's really like I have to zoom in and like it doesn't look right. If I'm on my phone, it doesn't work well. So if you put your code on github.com, I'll show you, you can send me a link to it, really nice and easy, and I can see what's going on. So I have a clone. So there's 2 really helpful places to go. Under this repository menu, you can use view on GitHub. We'll just open the website back up for you. So you can get right back out to the website. We're going to use this website to turn in the projects as well. There's a link I'm going to show you in a minute. We don't have to go there right now. So that's one helpful shortcut. The other one is repository show and explorer, or in Mac, like find in Finder or something like that. I forget what it is in Mac land. But this tool will work on Mac as well. It just opens the folder here Now, by default, GitHub likes to put itself in your documents folder, make a folder called GitHub, and then every repository you have is just a folder. So we're going to make a repository for each project. So you'll have one for project 0, you'll have one for project 1, project 2, project 3, project 4, you'll have one for the final project. You'll just have a bunch of different folders in the GitHub folder. That's fine. If you want to put it somewhere else because you have stuff on like your D drive or something, go for it. Perfectly fine. I don't recommend you try and move it over to like your Google Drive or OneDrive or Dropbox because GitHub is already your cloud backup of things. If you want to, go for it. Like, it's not going to hurt anything, but like there's a lot of churn behind the scenes. Inside of this folder, there's a .git folder that's hidden. So if you go to View, you can check file name extensions and hidden items. You should probably always have these on as a developer. It's helpful information to see. Don't ever touch the .git folder. This is where all the magic happens. I don't know how Git works. Linus Torvald figured that out for me, and I just get to benefit from it. Don't touch it. Life is good. The .git ignore is what Git looks at to say, don't add these types of files. It basically, this one's really boring, or we can look at it on the website. It says anything that can be generated, log files, whatever the C-text files are, mobile things, packages here we don't need. Oh, sure. We're just going to ignore a bunch of that stuff. Most of this is Java specific. We don't need any of it. And this file is actually going to change. NetBeans knows how to work with the Git ignore file to ignore things. NetBeans keeps a private directory of things that shouldn't get put into source control, and we'll go and modify this file perfectly fine. Just let it happen. Anything that wants to happen here is fine. Don't need to worry about it. The license file and the README markdown file, MD for markdown. So what I'm going to do, now that I have this folder on my computer, I'm going to go over to NetBeans. And no, not Nebraska. Thank you, search. NetBeans. There we go. And launch NetBeans. The other thing I'm going to need open is my Xampp control panel. So if you've installed Xampp, I have a little control panel here that starts up. This is so I can turn on my web server. They're both a little slow, and my computer is even slower when I run OBS to do the streaming, so it takes it a good little bit of time here. Usually start it, go get your coffee, come back. It's not that slow, but everyone needs to get their coffee. So Xampp installed. It also installs FileZilla and Mercury. We're just going to ignore those and never touch them. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. We're going to use Apache, we're going to use MySQL, and Tomcat. Sorry, that's kind of small, isn't it? So Apache is the web server, an open source web server, that we're going to use for PHP. When we get to the Java side of things, we're going to use Tomcat. You can take a whole web server administration course if you want. Most of the behind-the-scenes details we're going to gloss over, because our focus is on writing the code to do cool stuff. We don't really have time to talk about the web server side of things. It's cool too, but we can't do both. So one thing you might run into on your computer, there's this thing called a port. When you communicate over the network, if you haven't had the networking class, this makes no sense. I'm sorry. We should have a lot more prereqs. I guess it's not like necessary, but you have different ports that you communicate on, and your computer will use specific ports to listen on the network for traffic. By default, web traffic goes over port 80 for HTTP traffic. Secure web traffic, which should be almost everything nowadays, because it's so much easier to do, is on port 443. You don't need to know the numbers, it's okay, but they're there. If you need to change the ports that Tomcat uses, you can go and configure it to change the port numbers. I can show you through that. So on my computer, port 80 is already in use because I also do web development in C#. And the tool for that is IIS, and IIS is a hog, and it doesn't let anyone else use port 80. So I have to go change it. So on mine, I changed the port number. You go to config, and you go to your Apache HTTPD config, not the HTTPD SSL. The first one here is your Apache config. And if you just scroll down a little bit, you see there's a listen line here. And here you can change the port number to be something other than 80. You can even make it be specific to an IP address. We don't care. We're just doing local development. You can get really fancy with web server config. Again, we're just not at there. So we're just going to say, hey, I want this port number to listen on. So if you don't change to a different number, it's okay. It'll work perfectly fine. But but you can't just take my code and open it because it's going to be looking at a different port number. So no big deal. You don't need to even go change it. Just know that that happens, and it's not too big of a deal. We can change it here. So now when I click Start on Apache in Xampp, it's going to go try and start the process up. And in the ports here, it's going to list those 2 port numbers. Come on, Apache. I'm still trying to start NetBeans, my goodness. What did my poor computer do? I think it's like dead. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So again, it's really tiny. I'm sorry. It says port 443. That's for the secure HTTPS traffic. We're not actually going to use that most of the time because we don't have a real certificate that our computers. Every time you go there, your very helpful browser says, "Hey, don't trust this page." Yeah, we know that, but like every time, and it's really annoying. So we're just going to do everywhere in the unsecure or HTTP side with either port 80 or whatever custom port you want. Typically, you just leave 80 there and you put some other numbers in front of it. You can't go any higher than 64,000 some odd numbers, and you don't want to go below, forget, something in the 600 range. It's been a long time since I've done the networking thing. There's a bunch of reserved ports. But like any number in front of 80 will probably do. When you get to Tomcat likes to use 8080 as its default. So fine. They both could use 8080, you just can't have them both running at once. So pick a port number. I can help you with it if it doesn't start. So if I were to stop mine and go put it back on 80, I'll show you what the error looks like just so you can see it. It's going to give you a nice big red yell at you. I put it back on 80 and save that. And I try and start it, my little log here is going to yell at me. Hey, Apache shut down unexpectedly. Might be due to a blocked port, missing dependencies, or this. We're not really sure. It's not the most helpful error in the world, but if you get some sort of warning, yeah, it's there. Generally, there's something out in the logs. Going and looking at these logs is really obnoxious. Again, Apache does a lot of really cool things, but let's not worry too much about it. So if you get a big fat red error, let me know. I'll help you out running. Probably a port issue. So I'll go back to 5080 for fun. And make sure it starts. Excuse me. So if Apache can start, that means PHP is up and running. So this Xampp bundle that we get runs PHP on Apache out of the box. You install it, you hit start, and it goes. If you're not sure if it's working, after it starts, the admin button should light up. And admin will then launch the PHP default page. Oops, shoot, I missed one other, I'm sorry. Let me come back to Xampp. If you change the port number, you have to tell it one more place that you also changed the port number. So Xampp has its own config for doing these shortcuts. So you go to config, service and port settings. We will tell Apache that it uses 5080. I used to use 50,080, and then all of a sudden it stopped working, and I blame Windows Update. So 5080, great. So just also tell Xampp that you changed the port number. We'll save. Really? Okay, that must be why I didn't change it. That's super obnoxious. Oh, it did change. Okay, it said it didn't, but it did change anyway. Cool, so I've got 5080. So now when I hit admin, it should launch to the correct port number here. So that's localhost is your computer. The localhost means your local computer right here. You could also use 127.0.0.1, or is it like colon something in IPv6? I really don't, and it's been quite a while. Back when I was in school, they were still talking about IPv6, and it still is like not really gotten a lot of traction. It makes me really sad. Anyway, so if you can get to this page, life is good. It's up and running. This is step one. So Xampp, Apache, it's technically MariaDB. It's really just MySQL. Same thing, it just ever so slightly different. For the differences, we could care less. PHP, plus you can do Perl if you so care to, go for it. All sorts of fun. We're going to go to this PHP Info page. So it should launch to the dashboard. This is a default page right out of the box. We get PHP Info. This gives us all sorts of cool things about our PHP install. The particular version it is, anything and everything you could ask for is out here. Like tons of really cool information that most of the time we could care less about, but it's out here. Right? If you can get here, great. PHP is up and running. We're responding. Life is good. Now we need to get to do our own PHP applications, which is a lot of fun. Excuse me. So that's just checking all the tools, making sure they respond. So back to, I have my folder here. I have my repository. All of my projects in NetBeans are going to be put in this folder. If I put source code in this folder, Git will be able to track it, and then I can get it synchronized with github.com so the code goes out to where everyone can see it, or you can see it and I can see it for your private repositories. So in NetBeans, I'm going to go start a new project. We're going to go to PHP, and we want a PHP application. It's nice and easy, basic PHP. Now we get a couple things here. So we would need the project name. So we'll call this one Hello World. Again, the tradition, anytime you learn a new programming language, the very first thing you have it do is say Hello World. I don't know who started it, but you have to do it now. Otherwise, you're going to feel bad for not doing a Hello World. And we're going to change this sources folder. We want our source to be somewhere else. We want to go put it in that folder that we cloned with the GitHub client. That's our repository folder. So I'm going to hit Browse. I'm going to go find my GitHub folder. I'm going to find 2454 for fall. Yours will be CIS 2454, fall 2021, and then project number, and then your username. It's really big, long, and ugly, but it's just a nice format. It'll make life easy for us. And it's fine. It's telling us, hey, it's not empty. No big deal there. We'll go next. Then we need to change this bit of information. That is really small. I'm sorry. I don't think I can make that any bigger at the moment. All it has is the URL for where the project is. I'm going to come over to localhost, and I need to tell it, hey, I'm using a different port number. So if you changed it from 80, you have to go do this. If you left it at 80 and it started perfectly fine, no step here. You can just skip it. But because I had to change mine, I'm going to go to localhost. And remember when I launched this admin page? It says localhost : 508080 or 5080 here. I need to put that : 5080 in NetBeans. So I'm going to go to localhost : 5080. And then /, it gets the name of the folder. I'm going to leave that there. Then I have one more step to do. I don't think I can. It's like a zoom tool. No, that's the wrong zoom tool. Magnifier. I don't know if magnifier is going to work. Turn on magnifier. Let me try it. Where'd it go? Oh, look at that. Hey, does that work? Can you see that any better now? Cool. All right, that's just going to be weird because I only see like a quarter of my screen right now. We need to check this copy files from sources to another location. So what's happening here is we're saying I want to keep all of my code in the GitHub folder over here in my documents, but I want to copy it to another location. I need to copy it to the place where PHP is looking for it. So in here, you copy the folder, you want c:\xampp/htdocs. I don't actually know what the HT is for. This is the PHP folder, essentially. And then I'm going to give it the same name here again. I don't want PHP Project 1. I want CIS 2454 fall 2021. And it's warning you, hey, this directory must be accessible to your server. So anything we put into htdocs, our Apache web server is going to say, oh, you're a PHP project. Let me do the web server things that I need to do. So it should work just fine. That's the goal here. If this doesn't work for you, we can take a look at it. Sometimes you have to play with it a little bit to make it cooperate, but generally it's nice and happy. The idea is we keep all of our GitHub stuff over in the GitHub folder. And the other nice thing is that this is only going to copy your source files. When you open a NetBeans project, you get all sorts of NetBeans related files. You can put the entire NetBeans project right into this htdocs folder, but then you have all that other garbage out there in your htdocs folder, which is not ideal. Like, if you can help it, you don't want to put more files than you need out on your web server. So this will keep all of our project files separate from our sources. Should be good. We'll go next. Again, NetBeans is good at some of these frameworks. We're not even going to bother right now. Again, we're going to do basics, and then The idea is you can learn other frameworks. I'll show you a popular one. It's really easy. It's going to feel like magic after having done stuff the long way. But if all you learn is the magic and the magic doesn't do the right thing, it's really hard to make it do it right. So sometimes I feel bad not teaching people frameworks, but honestly, we don't even have the time for it anyway. Oh goodness, this Zoom thing is neat. All right, and then next, we don't need any of this composer stuff, so we go to finish. All right, now I think I can close the magnifier out. Close that back down. So over in the left, this project view, if you haven't used NetBeans before, it has 3 different tabs over here. Maybe I should have left magnifier up. There's projects, there's files, and there's services. Most of the time, we only care about the projects view. The files view just lets you actually see the folder itself. And just like opening it in the File Explorer. Right now I see there's an NB project. This is the NetBeans project directory. Everything in here belongs to NetBeans, so that NetBeans knows it's a NetBeans project. We don't have to worry about it. But you're going to open it, this little button on the left to expand it. We go to our source files. And we're going to add a new, right-click, go to new PHP file. We want to add a new PHP file. We'll call this Hello World, I guess. Hello World. Oh, let me open the magnifier again. That is too tiny, I'm sorry. All right, so give it the name of the file, and it's automatically going to add the PHP extension for you. So you don't need to say hello world.php. That's just going to confuse people. Right? Just let the tool add it for you. So just call it hello world. It's great. We can say finish. So again, this is the project view. There's the files view and services view. We generally only care about projects. So if it looks funny, maybe you're on a different tab here. All right, now back in code. I think this is large enough to see here now. It gives you, this is a PHP code block. Again, we haven't even got to chapter 1 yet of the text. Don't worry about it. We're basically in the appendix here. All we want to do is we're going to say echo hello world and a semicolon. So echo is our keyword here in PHP to put something out on the screen. And then PHP is really good. You can use single quote the apostrophes, or you can use double quote the actual quote marks. They are different, and we'll get to the differences. Typically, I mean, there's not even a typically. They can do different things. For the basic stuff, they both work fine. If you want to do some fancier things, you have to use one versus the other, and one is technically faster than the other. And I can never remember which it is, so I always go look it up anyway. So I'm going to do is say echo hello world and a semicolon. So if you liked your Java semicolons, you'll like your PHP semicolons. From here now, I always like to click this little drop down next to this IDE default browser, because the default browser is stupid, and I'm going to go change over to Firefox. If you don't have Firefox installed, you probably have Chrome installed. If you don't have that installed, you're welcome to use what other browser you want here. I'm quite partial to Firefox. I mean, I use Edge a lot for various reasons, but Firefox is fantastic. Chrome is essentially spyware at this point, and I don't recommend anyone ever use it, ever, or even have it installed. But that's just me being anti-Chrome. And it's really slow, uses up way too much memory, that sort of thing. And Firefox is really good at respecting your privacy. So they don't make money selling your info like Google does. Anyway, so I'm going to change the browser here. Otherwise, like, it likes to default to like the really old Internet Explorer that's just ugly and slow and terrible. So pick something, whatever you want to pick. And then we should just be able to hit the run button to run our project. Oh, we got to add our index. Okay, that's right. So I didn't launch out. In the project settings, you can tell it where you want to start. It was expecting index.php. That's my mistake. So I'm going to rename this to index.php. So we'll say OK. Instead of hello world, my mistake. Let's rename. We'll call this one index. That'll just make life easier. When you go to directories on a web server, it will generally look for a file named index. That's been just a default thing for years and years and years and years. So this will make life easier. I don't need to put specifically hello world.php in. It will just find the index file for me. Now when I hit run, it should launch out. Stop warning me. And I get my local host, colon, the port number, / folder name, / index.php. It will default to index.php. If you add other PHP files, then we could go change this URL here. We don't know how to add links yet. We'll get there. but I see it spit out hello world. Awesome. We got PHP up and running. I got a PHP file being served by my Apache web server. We're going to talk more about that in detail on next Thursday when we actually get into the text, chapter 1 and chapter 2 of the text. This is just making sure our tools work. We don't need to quite understand all the magic behind the scenes. So a bunch of different steps, right? But we're going to do the steps every time for every project, and it hopefully won't feel so terrible. If it does feel terrible, I apologize. We could write them all down if we need to, but we do it enough times, or maybe you keep your own little cheat sheet for it, and that's fine. So we got it up and running. Now what we're going to see, the next part we need to do so that you can actually get credit for your assignment, is we're going to come back to the GitHub client, and it should say, hey, there's a bunch of new stuff here. It says, hey, there's an index.php file. Now, Git is really good at working with text files. Code is done in plain text files so that people can read them. There's binary types of files, which have like a unique format, and then there's text files that we can actually read. So everything is done in text, typically. So anything in green is new, anything in red is removed, and anything orange has been deleted. Let me open up that magnifier again. That actually works kind of nice. Let's see. There we go. So the green is new. This orange is modified. Git Ignore was modified. Remember, PHP knows how, or NetBeans knows how to work with this file. So it says, oh, hey, don't add anything in this private folder. That's good. I mean, there's nothing in there that it would be bad if we put online, but it's just a good habit to put stuff in this private folder. And this is one of the things you can do, like the right way of configuring passwords and secrets and all sorts of other stuff that we just don't have time to get into. We can put in private locations like that or do other cool stuff. So yeah, index is new, project properties is new, project XML is new. There should be one more new thing here. Let me just like hit save again one more time. Come back to my Git client. That's fine. So if new stuff pops up in MB project, perfectly fine. We don't care. As long as you see your PHP file here, you'll be in good shape. Then what you have to do, so it's telling us, remember, Git is just a glorified file watcher. It says, here's my folder. I'm going to watch everything that goes in, everything that comes out, everything that changes. What we can do with Git is you can take a snapshot of that point in time of the folder, of everything that's inside of it. That's called a commit. So to make a commit, you come down here and you give it a summary. So we'll say, hello world, done. And you say commit. Once you have the commit, your local copy of the repository has it. It's almost impossible to lose. Not quite, but almost impossible to lose a commit. So once you have that commit, we can always go back in time to that snapshot. There's technically ways to delete it, but they're really frowned upon in the professional development world because it blows away the history and it's just bad form and can really screw things up. So I know there are commands to do it, but in general, it's really, really hard to lose a commit. The next thing we have to do is, remember, it's a push and pull. So you push to the central repository or you pull from the central repository. We need to push our change. So you get a nice big blue push button, or up at the top, this one changes to push, or there's a push option up here somewhere. I forget where. It's like, oh, or Control P. Like always 3 different ways to do it. Whatever you want, click on push. It goes and spins for a minute here. Once that's done, github.com has it. They're probably not going to lose it because that's how they make their money, is hosting people's code, right? If you want to see it again, you could go to the website if you remembered it, or maybe you had it open, or you just use your shortcut repository, view on GitHub. I'm going to close out the magnifier, and we're back to, so this one will zoom nice for me here. We'll see our repository folder now has a index.php in it, this little NB project folder. Awesome, we're in good shape. So if I click on index.php, I can actually see the contents of it line by line by line. So if you're having trouble with your code, you can just come in here and say, hey, here's the index.php file, or even, hey, this particular line, you can click on it and it adds a little link to it. And you can say, hey, this particular line of code is causing me trouble. I'm getting an error somewhere. And when you text me this or send me this on Discord or email this to me, I can look at this particular line. You're probably not going to type this into your phone for a text message. So texting is probably a little silly for this. But you can send me this link and I'll be able to see your repository. Okay? So the last thing is for you folks to do it. I need to set up the classroom link real quick. Give me just a second to set up our classroom. This is through GitHub, which is fantastic. Through OCC. This is CIS 2454, fall 2021. All right, skip. There's cool ways, like I could actually invite you to it and do some sort of integrations. You notice we're not on the list with Desire to Learn. They do cool stuff with Canvas and Moodle. All right, I need to make an assignment. So this is Project 0. They're private repositories, and you'll have access and I'll have access to them. Use my template here. This just sets up the Git Ignore for you automatically, so you don't have to do any of that. And then there's this cool thing called a feedback pull request. I'll show you what that looks like in a second. So I'll make the assignment. So here's your URL. I'm going to copy this. Let me come over to D2L and make the assignment here. And if you've got all the tools installed, or if you want to use the college computer, all it's going to need is the GitHub desktop client. That doesn't need admin permissions to install, so you can install that on your virtual desktop, no problem. Let's make project 0. So this is next week by the start of class is the goal to have this done, so you all have a working PHP install. Add a new grade, project 0. Awesome, so here's the link, and we're going to create your PHP Hello World program we did in class. And we're going to submit the URL to the feedback pull request. I'll show you where that is in just a second here. And then I always forget, if you go to D2L and it asks you to upload a file, please tell me, because if you upload a file, then I can't change it. So I often have, because it's the default, sometimes I forget to change it, and people are like, oh, hey, I had to upload a file. Once you do that, everyone else has to. And then like 5 people, 6, 7, 8 people ask me, like, why do I have to upload a file? And I have to say, because I'm dumb and forgot to change it. So save me the embarrassment. If you notice it, tell me first before you upload something, otherwise it's stuck. All you need to do is submit text, because you're going to give me a URL. You're just going to give me the link to the website, and life is good here. All of the projects will have a rubric attached to them, so you'll know exactly how you're going to get the points for it. You either did the thing or you didn't do the thing. Occasionally there's some partial credit there, like where you tried to do the thing, and I see that you tried it, but it wasn't right. I'll give you partial points. But if you just totally skipped something, then there's no points there. So that's typically how I write the rubrics. So it's a complete or missing. Missing. Missing is no points. Complete, 1 point. This is hello world or index file. Hello world. World project. So having that file in your hello world project displays. So I'm actually going to ask for a little bit more than hello world. I just want a couple lines from you. So you're going to have your name, your major or the program that you're in, or like if you're just here for transfer credit, right? Major or reason for taking the class. So your name, your major, reason for taking the class, and what's the other thing? My goodness, it's getting not enough coffee here. Is that it? Oh, any previous programming experience? Like if you took 1500, tell me you took 1500. If you took 2151, tell me you took that. If you took a class somewhere else that wasn't here and somehow you got in anyway, tell me that. I have, over the summer, I had people taking the class for transfer credit who hadn't taken our Java classes before, but like they got put in anyway, and that was just really weird. So just let me know that. All right, so it'll just, instead of echoing hello world, you'll echo hello world, and then you can echo my name is Eric, ... So I'll do it one more time and show you the Git process on your side. It'll all be that. Number 2 is files are committed to GitHub using the desktop client, not the file upload option. I hesitate to show you this because everyone tries to use the file upload option and it drives me nuts. I wish I could turn it off, but I can't. So on the GitHub page, sorry, that's another tab right here. Back at this main view, let me zoom out a little bit here. There's a button for add file. upload, don't do this, please. Use the GitHub client to synchronize your folders, right? And you'll notice, hey, the index.php changed. It says you added a line here. Git is really good at tracking things as they happen line by line by line by line. It's fantastic. So don't use upload file. Use the GitHub client to sync it, and life is good. So you get a point for that. And then it's another tab. Goodness, this one. You get one more point for submitting the feedback pull request URL. So just 3 points here. Not a lot for this project 0, but again, it's just the can you make the tools work project. It's not, you haven't really done anything interesting at least. So for 3 points for that. All right, so what it's going to look like when you click that link, it's going to take you to a page that says, hey, do you want to accept this assignment? If it doesn't, it's going to ask you to log in first with whatever GitHub account you created. That link. So again, we're going to do the process one more time. We'll do the process one more time, and then we'll take a break. If we leave now, then it's just a couple more minutes here. So you can accept the assignment. Right? It says, hey, do you want to do this here? Yep, great. Accept the assignment. Then it says, okay, this will take a few minutes. It takes like 5 seconds because our template is really, really basic. There's a lot of cool things you can do with GitHub Classrooms. We're just not there yet, and that's okay. So just count to 5 and hit refresh, and then it'll say, oh, you're good to go. And then you have a link here. This link is for your project. Oh, goodness. Project 0. Shoot. I forgot to put the rest of the name in there. That's okay. Usually it says CIS 2454 fall 2021. I messed that one up. So it should be fine. It really only matters if you're in more than one class of mine, because I'm the only one doing this. So I think I have some people in 1200 and 1500, but not 1500 in this because it's a prereq. So you should be fine. So anyway, this is your URL for it. Again, it's basically empty, just has the starter stuff here. So what you're going to do then is you're going to clone the repository so that you'll have a folder named project 0-your username on your computer. Right? So you can use the code button, open with GitHub Desktop. I'll say, do you want to clone it? Yep, great. Again, if you want to change it to a different location, have at it. By default, it's your C drive documents folder. I like defaults because they're easy. So now I have an empty folder here. It didn't take me to it. There it goes. Just takes GitHub a second. So now I've got my empty folder here. I'm going to come back over to NetBeans, go to File, New Project, and we're going to repeat the same thing here. So PHP application. Let me open the magnifier again. Magnify. All right, so you give it the project name, and like Hello World. I don't really care what the name is, but you should probably name it something so you know what it is. So Hello World for the project name. We're going to change the source folder. We're going to say, don't save all my files here. I need to go find that GitHub folder that we just created. So mine was project 0 Erichanesky. And okay. So put it in that folder. Right? This is how NetBeans is going to put the files where Git can see them and GitHub can see them. Right? If we don't do this step, the GitHub client won't see any files, and you won't be able to get it out to github.com, and then I won't be able to see it. So make sure it's there. And then we go next. Make sure we change the port number if you change the port number. And if you left it at port 80, great, nothing to change here. If you did change the port number, or if you're using the virtual desktop, I think that one actually does use port 80. You should be fine. I'm just going to go change it to 5080 because that's what I changed on mine. Then I'm going to check the copy files to another location. And again, just to keep things the same, I'm going to leave this as this name of my repository here so that it matches. They technically don't need to be the same, but if they're not the same, it's more likely that we're going to get confused on what's happening. So again, it's not a requirement. It's just going to make life easier for us because we know they all look the same. So that sets up the URL with the right port. Make sure we're going to copy to the htdocs folder. It is possible to install Xampp to different locations too. Just wherever you installed Xampp, right, there's a folder called htdocs inside of it. That's where Apache is set up to run. It should be C Xampp if you took the defaults. But next, we don't need any frameworks. Next, we don't need any of this. Finish. Then we should get another Hello World project. So if you don't know which one is which, if you're silly like me and have multiple projects with the same name, if you just hover over the project, it tells you where the location is of the project. So you can see this one is in my CIS 2454 folder. This one over here is in my project 0 folder. So this is the one I want to use. So I'm going to right click this one and close it so I don't forget. So you can leave all of your projects open if you want all the time. It slows NetBeans down a little bit to have them open. So totally up to you. We're going to go to the source folder and right click and go new PHP file. Call it index. That's the right thing to do here. That way that one's automatic. And we'll say finish. So I have a new index file. Okay, I can turn off the magnifier again. And you can get rid of all the comments. Comments work the same way they do in Java, which is nice, like /* or // for a single line comment. We're going to say echo. So we're going to say my name, Eric Chinesky. Echo, I'm the, oops. So if you use the double quotes, you can use single quotes inside. Otherwise it makes things, oh, and my semicolon. Otherwise it's going to get confused if you want to use apostrophes. I'm the teacher and lots of CIS courses. Right? Any other programming experience and experience. I'll just say lots. That's it. Make sure there's a semicolon there. It's pretty good at warning you if you don't have semicolons, right? Again, like all IDEs, it's not always going to tell you on the exact line that you don't have it. Like right now it says, hey, at line 6, there's a syntax error, end of file. It reached the end and didn't find a semicolon. So that was where we're missing our semicolon. I'm going to change the browser because the default one is dumb. Back over to Firefox and hit run. I get, uh-oh, it's all smushed together. Right? I don't have any new lines in here. Uh-oh. So we can go add new lines if we wanted, or we could add them in HTML. Lots of different, again, we haven't really got to chapter 1. I wouldn't worry too much about it. But we can do \n. I think we can do \n. Sounds right. Let me try it. Nope. Shoot. That's right. Do line breaks. Oh, this is so ugly. I'm sorry. There's better ways to do it. We just haven't got there yet. If it all just runs together too, that's fine. And line breaks work. There we go. Sure. If you want line breaks ready, if you want to put it all in one line, I don't really care. But it's a B/BR here for a line break. Again, we don't even have like HTML programming as a prereq for this, which is also super weird. I don't know. All the HTML stuff we're essentially going to copy out of the book. Like when we build a form, we're going to take all the book code and say, here's my form. So if you haven't done a lot of HTML stuff before, don't worry about it. And we're not going to make it look pretty either. So if you know how to use cascading style sheets, fantastic. I love when things look pretty. We're not going to take the time to do it. So you're welcome to if you want. So we've got it all here. We're going to come back to our GitHub client, and it should say, hey, there's some new stuff here. Make sure you can see your index file that we made. Give it a commit summary. Like this is hello, or project 0 done, right? Project 0 done. We'll say commit and push. Oh, if you follow along on Twitch, I have silly channel reward points. It was really hard to get people to interact and do anything when remote. I mean, I think we still did better than I would have done if I tried to make people be on Zoom, because Zoom is just awful, staring at a bunch of black boxes, and then like people can't hear half the time and nonsense. But one of the channel point rewards you can redeem is for me to tell a dad joke. I'm quite fond of dad jokes, and my kids love them. They love hearing me tell these terrible jokes all the time so much. So I keep a whole pile of them here. And it's a nice little break from all the stuff we're doing. Sometimes get a good joke in there. I use good very liberally. So I just found out, I was a little confused before, but did you know Albert Einstein was actually a real person? This whole time I thought he was just a theoretical physicist. Yeah, they're good, aren't they? Anyway, so you commit your changes and you push so that GitHub will have your code. You can go check it again, go to repository, view on GitHub. We'll open it back up. And the last piece here is that feedback pull request link that I want. Right? This is okay. I'll be able to figure it out from here. But the feedback pull request I'm going to show you in just a second gives me one other additional tool, which is super cool. So to find it, there's so much going on the page, it's kind of crazy, but you go to this pull requests tab, So kind of in the middle, there's pull requests. You click there. Feedback is a link you can click, the one called feedback. If you grab this URL and copy paste that into Desire to Learn when you go to submit, we'll be in good shape. The reason why I like feedback pull requests is it has this files changed tab here, and I can come right in here, and for each file in your project, like your index file, or as we start doing more and more interesting things, I can come to line 4 and I can leave a note right at line 4, right in the code through the tool here, and I'll say, what kind of classes? And I can leave a comment, and then it will show up right in the code attached to it. It will send you an email notifying you that it happened, or you can also come to this exact same website, open it back up, and you'll see it right in the website. And you could even reply to it if you wanted. So this process here is called a pull request. This is typically how in professional development places, before you make changes to code, you say, hey, this is what I want to change. And then someone else on your team gets a chance to look at it, and they can do a quick review, some sort of peer review process. They'll look at it through this pull request process. There's a lot of other cool things that happen behind the scenes. We're not going to get into it because we're not in software engineering and actually talking about the process of writing software, but just know this is super cool, and then I can leave comments line by line by line. So this is where I'll leave you comments if I need to tell you something about your code. Trying to do annotations or file uploads or like saying, hey, at line 27, like that's really silly because we can use this really amazing tool for free. This is what we're going to do. So all you need to do is give me this URL in Desire to Learn when you go to submit project 0, and we're all set. Right, so I got the rest of the night to make sure it's working for you. We can work through the process and go from there. Any other questions before I stop the lecture portion? Cool. All right, I'll hit stop here.